And today I want to talk about the war that's on the horizon. World War III is coming up, so I guess I'm doing a kind of a part two, just as these prophecies continue to progress and becomes more and more evident that that's what we headed towards. Let me start out by getting Joel 3 and 9. And it reads,
The book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare for war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up.
verse 10.
Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong.
You see that? And that's what we see. That's what we're seeing, especially in Ukraine. If we go back to when the war was first getting started, you see they were training civilians that had never been warriors before. They had never fought before. They weren't part of the army. They was training them how to use AK-47s and how to clear a room and how to move through a building. So it's just the nation's preparing for war because the Most High said that that's what they would be doing. Like I said, it's these people. They weren't thinking about going to war. You can get Matthew 24, 6 through 8.
The book of Matthew, chapter 24, verses 6 through 8. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginnings of sorrows.
You see that? So every time you look up, you hear a new turning point in this war. You hear about different countries having conflicts with each other, and different countries going into war with one another. You hear about China and Taiwan, and now you hear about Germany stepping into this Russia-Ukraine conflict. So it's heating up. Let me see. Let me get that first article. It's a CNN article, and it is titled "Top Ukrainian Security Officials Says Russia Preparing for Maximum Escalation in the War." Russia is gearing up for maximum escalation of the war in Ukraine, potentially as soon as the next few weeks, according to a top Ukrainian national security official. These will be defining months in the war. Alexei Danilov, Secretary of Ukraine's National Defense and Defense Council, told Sky News in an interview broadcast Tuesday. "I'm conscious that the main fights are yet to come, and they will happen this year, within 2 or 3 months," he said. So they're predicting that this war that's already, they've already been showing it on national news. They've been showing it that they're predicting that it's going to get far worse than what we've been seeing now. And it reads, "Russia is preparing for maximum escalation. It is gathering everything possible, doing drills and training when it comes to an offensive from different directions. As of now, I can say that they are not excluding any scenario in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Ukrainian officials have warned for some time of a renewed Russian offensive and have asked for more powerful weaponry from Western allies to counter the threat." So you see that Ukraine, they, I guess they kind of worried about what Russia gonna come with. So they asking for more weapons from, from the U.S. They asking for weapons from Germany, from all the NATO allies. They asking them to get involved. Sound like what we just read in Joel 3. All the Gentiles preparing for war. And, we know Russia, they have alliances with China. So I'm sure if the West get too far involved, China go be jumping in this war as well. And it's over 1 billion people in China. That's you want to break down percentages of the population, that's what 15, 16% just in one nation. Okay, let me keep reading. Not just on land, but on sea and in air as well. Head of the United States Coordinating Press Center of Security and Defense Forces of South Korea said on national TV. Ukrainian intelligence had noted changes to activity of Russian naval forces in the Black Sea, she added. It increases and decreases rapidly, and the missile carriers are moving back and forth, she said. So, things really getting hot over there, so especially when they're talking about missile carriers moving back and forth, it sounds like they really finna come with it. Get one more article. We'll get back to some more scripture. And this one is titled, Does the West's decision to arm Ukraine with tanks bring it closer to war with Russia? The West's decision to finally send tanks to Ukraine has caused some to ask the uncomfortable question, does this mean that NATO is now in direct conflict with Russia? The narrative, which is being pushed hard by the Kremlin, undoubtedly helps Russian President Vladimir Putin and his allies deflect from the fact that Russia launched an unprovoked attack on Ukraine and illegally occupied parts of a sovereign state. It also, perhaps more conveniently for Putin, gives the NATO allies pause for thought when it comes to deciding how much military assistance they should give Ukraine. First thing first, the consensus among experts is that no NATO member is anywhere near what could be considered to being at war with Russia by any internationally accepted legal definition. Therefore, the idea that the alliance is at war with Russia is a non-starter. War requires strikes carried out by U.S. and NATO forces in uniform, attacking from NATO territory against Russian forces, Russian territory, or Russian populace, explains William Albuquerque from the International Institute for Strategic Studies. So you hear the double talk in this article, and that's how you know that the white man's the devil, because you see they saying that, well, this is not really war, and then they write a vague legal definition of what declaring war is. Because if you think about it, you might not directly be going to war, but you providing weapons and financing the war. That's like, it was a guy in Detroit up here a couple of months ago, I think. He bought a guy a gun and he ended up shooting the police with the gun, maybe a couple of weeks later or something. And, they went and locked his butt up for buying the gun for him because they was like, you knew he was a felon. He couldn't get the gun on his own. Why you bought it for? But, I see that's the same way. So they'll lock you up for doing something similar, but here they go providing the weapons for the war, and they say, oh, well, we're not really going to war. But, that's that double talk that you got to kind of be able to read between the lines. Any fighting by Ukraine with any conventional weapons against any Russian forces is not U.S./NATO war on Ukraine, no matter how much Russia wants to claim it so, he adds. Albuquerque points to the United Nations Charter, which states that nothing shall impair the inherent right of individual or collective self-defense in an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations until the Security Council has taken measures necessary to maintain international peace and security. Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council and has used its veto to block condemnation of its actions in Ukraine. So you see that? I say it's a lot of double talk going on. Let me get Amos 5, 18 and 19.
The book of Amos, chapter 5, verses 18 and 19. Woe unto you that desire the day of the Almighty. To what end is it for you? The day of the Almighty is darkness and no light, as if a man did flee from a lion, and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him.
You see that, and we know that the war and all these wars breaking out and conflicts is the sign of the end times, the sign that the day of the Most High is rapidly approaching. My reason for bringing this out is I'm gonna bring out a little history behind it. A lot of people don't really understand how terrible that war is, like actually living through that and surviving through that. I'm bringing this out just to give us, like a actual example on some of the things that we have to endure in these end times. The title of this article is Vietnam Jungle, 6 Horrifying Things U.S. Troops Encountered During War. And it's funny because one of them in it was in that verse 19 too. The experience of war has always been intertwined with the environment. Weather, landmarks, climate, and ecology all play a role in the outcome of a battle, especially when fighting in a country entirely different from your own. The American experience during Vietnam was especially difficult when it came to the environment. Many soldiers were suddenly thrust into a deep jungle filled with unknown threats, ranging from Viet Cong sniper dens to venomous snakes. Apart from the deadly critters and dense vegetation, simply marching through the jungle threatened the well-being of soldiers serving in Vietnam. Swarms of mosquitoes, many carrying malaria, were inescapable, while the damp and difficult terrain could lead to the development of horrible foot sores. Dirty drinking water was also a common cause of illness and infection. Throughout the war, thousands of U.S. soldiers died of non-combat related causes. The following list features just some of the dangers these servicemen faced on a daily basis. Venomous snakes, aggressive insects, Viet Cong tunnels, killer plants, man-eating wildlife. It's tigers. That was just in the in the verse. And Viet Cong traps. Ed, if you don't mind, bring out verse 19 again.
Amos 5 and 19. As if a man did flee from a lion, and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him.
You see that? In these end times, you see in back in Vietnam, they literally had to worry about lions, or tigers rather, and snakes. You see how cold the scriptures are? So how much worse do you think it's gonna be in the Third World War? And this was just Vietnam. How much worse you think that's gonna be? Let me get 2nd Ezra 15, 14 through 19. So like I said, we're gonna have to endure some tough times before we can get saved out of this.
The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, verses 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and the swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power.
Verse 7. You think you gonna be able to organize a group of people in them times and say, okay, this is what we finna do? Nope, it's gonna be every man for himself at that time. It could, like, you ever watch like The Walking Dead and stuff. That's how it's gonna actually be. People just gonna be out fending for themselves, go hate each other, be ready to kill each other just to make sure they can get food and water. Things that are cheap right now, plentiful right now. But when the war happens, all the logistics of, the shipping, all that's gonna break down. You're not gonna be able to get stuff that you can get now. Keep reading.
Verse 17. A man shall desire to go into the sea and shall not be able.
You ain't gonna even have no gas to be able to go nowhere. You get bombs and all the logistical nightmares that come with war. You ain't gonna be able to just jump up and go nowhere when you feel like it. Keep going.
Verse 18. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation.
You see that? So that's what we in for. Like I said, the war is just the start. That's just the beginning of what's gonna happen. Like I said, imagine how much worse this war gonna be than Vietnam. Let me get 2nd Ezra 16, 16 through 19.
The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 16, verse 19. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are set against scourges for the amendment.
Salaki, skip up to 16 and read down to 19. I might have said that wrong.
The book of 2nd Ezra 16 and 16. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer, returneth not backward. Even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again.
You see that the Most High said it's too late. It's going to happen. It's already written that it's going to happen. Why? Because the Most High said it was going to happen. It's too late now. It ain't no turning back from it. It's going to happen. You just have to pray and keep these commandments and hope that the Most High can bring you out of it and bring you through it. And it might not be as bad for you as it is for some, but it's going to happen. Keep going.
Verse 17. Woe is me! Woe is me! Who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Verse 19. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are set as scourges for an amendment.
Verse 22. Yeah, that's a good one.
Verse 20.
Yep, get verse 20.
Verse 20. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges.
You see that? So even though all this is going on, most people still won't stop and think, man, why is this happening? And they still just go keep being wicked and keep doing, committing all kinds of sins against the Most High. Won't even stop and consider what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that's who the Most High is going to destroy, unfortunately. But that's what has to happen, because that's what has to happen for us to be able to walk through into the kingdom. You got to get rid of all the people that won't do His will. Let me get one more article. It's the last article. It's not really an article. It's more of a stat. So this is about World War II. And it's just it's a list showing all the people that died in each country. And they say the total amount of deaths from battle, now these just the soldiers, was 15 million. But then the total amount of civilian deaths, so these the people that just got bombed from, like I said, these from logistical nightmares from war, like trying to get food and clean drinking water. These people die from, like I say, hunger and thirst and sickness, just because, you can't, civilization can't continue on like it did before when you at war. It just can't. 45 million civilians died. Like I said, that's from sickness and starvation and getting bombed to death randomly. And then the number of people wounded on the battlefield was 25 million. So this World War II. Now just imagine how much more in World War III that's going to bring the world as we know it to an end. So yeah, that's a total of 60 million. How much more do you think? Just imagine that. Use your imagination to get that. Let me get 2nd Ezra 15, 22 through 26.
The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, verse 22. My right hand shall not spare the sinners, and my sword shall not cease from over them that shed innocent blood upon the earth. The fire is gone forth from his wrath, and have consumed the foundations of the earth, and the sinners, like the straw that is kindled. Woe to them that sin and keep not my commandments, saith the Almighty.
You see that? You feel sorry for the people that that's not in this truth and not following the commandments of the Most High. Just feel sorry for them. You don't have to be angry at them. Don't have to hate them. Feel sorry for them. I mean, because the suffering you're gonna have to go through. Like I said, you got to worry about getting. I was watching something else, and like a lot of people don't realize this. If you just walk outside, like in the jungle, like how they were doing in Vietnam, just walking through the rainforest, you'll get like ringworms and like athlete's feet, just because your feet are always wet from it raining. Now, just imagine what kind of disease gonna be out there at the end of the world. You can't even just walk through the jungle. You can't even just walk. Like, I'm sure your feet probably hurting. You got blisters. What's the name? Trench foot. That's another thing. You just get blisters on your feet. You can't even walk. Now, just imagine what we gonna be going through in that time if the Most High actually mad at you. Come on now. And keep going.
Verse 25. I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power. Defile not my sanctuary. For the Almighty knoweth all them that sin against him, and therefore delivereth he them unto death and destruction.
You see that? So, if you just not trying to keep these commandments, that's unfortunately, that's just where you go end up. The Most High is just go destroy you. Let me get Zephaniah 14, 17.
Say again, Aki broke up.
Zephaniah 1, 14 through 17.
The book of Zephaniah, chapter 1, verse 14. The great day of the Almighty is near. It is near, and hasteth greatly, even the voice of the day of the Almighty. The mighty men shall cry there bitterly.
You see that? Mighty men shall cry bitterly. That's like your strongest, bravest men, and they go cry bitterly. Just imagine that, like a big somebody. Imagine somebody like The Rock turning into a toddler and just crying because it's so bad. Keep going.
That day is the day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers. And I will bring distress upon men, that they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Almighty. And their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as the dung.
I mean, think about that. Dust is, dust covers the ground. So think about that. The blood go cover the ground. Well, I guess we don't have to even imagine it. What was the scripture that you read that time? I know you did some calculations, Elder, how many people it would take to fill up the area that Yahweh Shah was gonna kill people. Because I think it said it was gonna be blood like the
up to the horse.
Up like to a horse.
Up to the horse's breast.
Yeah, right. So up to a horse's mouth.
Right.
It's gonna be so many square miles
between 4 and 5 feet high.
Right. So imagine you just walking in blood up to your neck.
I think the calculations was 700 million people.
And like I said, World War II was 60 million. Imagine 700. Let me get Zechariah 13, 8 and 9.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verses 8 and 9. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Almighty, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the
third imagine you and your family members that might not necessarily be in the truth with you. Imagine you sitting at the table with them and everybody just gone. It's just you. It went from 3 people, a family of 3 sitting at the table to it's just you. Imagine that, and everybody going through that.
Wow.
Keep going.
And I will bring the third part through the fire, and I will refine them as silver is refined, and I will try them as gold is tried. They shall call upon my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Almighty is my Yah.
You see that? So the hopeful elect that he saved, we gonna have to, hopefully I'm part of that number. We gonna have to go through some stuff, because like gold is tried in the fire and silver is refined. We gonna be going through the same stuff. We gonna be going through all this stuff. He just gonna bring us out of it. He gonna find a way for us to survive through it. And that's you just have to pray and find favor with him so he can bring you through it. Get Isaiah 65, 13 and 14.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 65, verses 13 and 14. Therefore, thus saith the Almighty Yah, behold, my servants shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Behold, my servants shall sing for joy of heart, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit.
You see that? So ultimately, it's saying that, in them times, a lot of people, they not go eat. And a lot of people not go survive. But the Most High, he go look after his servants. He go make sure that we're fine. And we gonna be able to rejoice at the end of this. So, but you have to be his servant for that to happen. A good one at that. And last scripture, let me get Haggai 2, 7 through 9.
Salakia, say the script again.
Haggai 2, 7 through 9.
the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verses 7 through 9. And I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come up. Slakia. And the desire of all nations shall come. And I will fill the house with glory, saith the Almighty of hosts. And the silver is mine, and the gold is mine, saith the Almighty of hosts.
You see that? Hit verse 9.
The glory of this latter house shall be greater than the former, saith the Almighty of hosts. And in this place will I give peace, saith the Almighty of hosts.
You see that? The Most High saying he goes shake all these nations. So just imagine, you know how you see on the cartoons a bully grabbing somebody by the ankles and just shaking them and taking all their money and all their change. That's how the Most High go do at the end. At the end, and he go keep all that for himself, and we go build a nation that's better than what Israel was during the time of David and Solomon. It's gonna be better, a stronger nation than that. The Solomon's temple the new temple gonna make Solomon's temple look like it's nothing almost. So, you know, that's what we got to look forward to. That's all I have. Shalom.
All praises. Those are very powerful scriptures you brought out tonight.
The water.
Very, very powerful. And very frightening. Yeah, so you would do well to take heed and to listen.
Aubrey, come here.